Welcome to Cody and the Cinema. Today I'm discussing 3 Criterion Collection films in which a perfect stranger, a mysterious stranger perhaps, becomes a great friend, a great ally to a protagonist in the story and plays a great role in shaping the narrative. The first of these, a film I just watched that I'm in love with, I think it's a little bit underrated. This is John Stahl's Imitation of Life, starring Louise Beavers and Claudette Colbert. This film is about a widowed who husband's passed away, and she's obviously struggling raising her very young daughter, one of the cute movie kids in film history. And out of the blue, this woman has the wrong address, played by Louise Beavers, this black housekeeper, and she's looking for this different address, and just the circumstances kind of lead to them working together in the home, and they end up creating this whole business, and all of these things happen as a result of this chance encounter. But what's important about the story is that both women are mothers, pretty good mothers, and seeing how that plays out in their lives in different ways is fascinating, and I just think it's a wonderful piece of filmmaking. The back of the case describes them as a working class white woman who ascends to the top of the business world, and her black housekeeper whose life is shattered by the rejection of her rebellious white passing daughter, played by Frida Washington in this beautifully. And this term passing, there's a novel about this I read maybe last year, I think. And so that, I love that the film deals with this whole concept. So if you're unfamiliar with that term, I was for a long time. Passing was an idea that, some black women or men who didn't necessarily want to appear to be black, who were white, they could pass for white. And so there's a lot of identity that goes into this film, and it's explored. And I think the daughter of Louise Beavers' character gives such a phenomenal performance and really fleshes out the reality of how difficult that must have been in an extraordinarily racist society. And I love these characters. It's impossible not to fall in love with them, particularly her mother, who is just one of the most lovable characters I've ever seen on screen. Both mothers, I think, in the movie they're not only are they great friends and they have this lifelong friendship, which is warming and enchanting to watch, but their dedication to everything they do, whether it's being a mother or working in business together, whatever it is they're doing, they're always putting their all into it. And they're just such likable characters. Imitation of Life is a must-see. It is 1934, and you will see that there are attitudes of the time period that are quite unfortunate and or racist from the time period. But if you can look at the work and see the heart of the thing that's brought out on the screen, I think you'll really enjoy it. So those of you that have seen Imitation of Life, you'll have to let me know your thoughts. I think this movie's really underrated. I enjoyed it so much. And just these characters, all the characters, the child actors, the main actresses, the grown-up child actors, like, they're just all good, and it's just all fun. And there's even a romance in this film that's not distracting. There's a funny old guy who's really, it all worked for me. So I love Imitation of Life, and I think it has a good heart to it. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that one, because it really is just like this stranger walked into this woman's life, and her life was strictly better for it. Strong movie. Another movie that I thought of, because I was like, what are some, like, okay, so one person meets another person, and they just like completely don't mesh at first, but they really kind of develop this close bond. Maybe it's a stranger who cheats you in some way, and I thought of this movie Midnight Cowboy that I sometimes talk about. And if you haven't seen Midnight Cowboy, this thing is a trip. This is from 1969. This character played by John Voight, Joe Buck, he's trying to be a male prostitute hustler. So he leaves the country there in Texas and he goes to New York City, and he finds out he's not very good at it until he runs into Rizzo, who is also kind of a swindler and helps him learn a little bit more about that trade. And what results is a fascinating series of images, good songwriting, a lot of ambiguity into Joe Buck's past, a few really disturbing scenes where you can't tell if exactly the extent to which he was raised properly. I mean, there are some creepy scenes where just the way he was raised, and the music that plays when he's on the public transit and just watching the fields go by and seeing the ugly, abysmal reality that is his life. I mean, the drug use, there are shades of Taxi Driver in here. I really think Midnight Cowboy has that good, mysterious stranger pairing energy that I sometimes like in movies. And I'll tell you, it's a bleak film. It's a tough film to watch. It's an uneven film, even. There are certainly parts that are better than others, but I couldn't make this video without mentioning it because it's just such an essential piece of cinema. And the cover here really matches the vibe of the film, I think, very well. Yeah, this one has a booklet with it. I haven't looked at the booklet on this. I'll have to check it out, but always been a big fan of Midnight Cowboy. Wanted to bring it up here. And finally, a film that I loved. It was my first, I think it was the first 4K I was able to watch on my 4K player. And visually, it was just masterful. I mean, on its own, it was like just the most breathtaking thing to look at. But it also tells a very good story. So there's this movie called Walkabout. This was my first 4K I ever got from 1971. Takes place in the Australian outback. Talking around the spoilers here, sister and brother are basically in the Australian outback and they weren't prepared for the situation they're in, okay? And they have to survive. And they run into a chance encounter with a mysterious stranger who is an Aboriginal youth. And he's walking as part of a ritual. You find out a little bit more of what that means later. But because they run into him, so he's like very adept and skilled in surviving the land. And that's like part of what he's doing. And what happens is you have this really pretty film set in the outback with just this bright, colorful, beautiful imagery and this wonderful performance by this actor. And he is just such a lifeboat for these two young people. Seeing him lead them so graciously and help them, despite the fact that he's not having the easiest time, probably having to deal with this world himself, it gives you a feeling of comfort watching this happen and watching his culture play out and how they all interact together. I think it's a fascinating film. This was on Roger Ebert's great movie list, so when I heard about the 4K, I had to buy it. And I really love the cover with him standing on top of this car that's on fire, which you find out more of what that's about later. I also think when it does contrast with urban life, there's some good commentary there. The booklet for this thing, so one of the reasons I wanted to mention this to you all in the video is some of the booklets are a little bit bland on the inside, which is totally fine. I don't need a picture book to entertain me. But this one has, when you start opening it up, lots of cool images from the film as it goes along. And just one of those movies that really builds a good atmosphere. Terrific film. So that one has more of that mysterious stranger energy as well. You know what I didn't include on this list? I did not include a Western. So if you can think of a Western that you want to leave in the comments, that would be good, because I usually pull out a Western for something like this with a mysterious stranger. Yeah, there's probably something in the collection, huh? If you liked the video and you found any of these suggestions to be helpful, or you just like listening to the commentary, if you could do me a favor and click that like button, it does help grow the channel. And if you haven't subscribed before, it's not something you've done, please consider doing that, because I cover lots of different film-related topics. I go through Criterion stuff, I go through, Westerns, I go through physical media watches, just anything that I'm into, because I love film and have for quite some time, and I love sharing it. And we will see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.